What's up, guys? Welcome to the Win Daily Sports Thursday Night Football Preview 49ers at Cardinals Halloween edition, where we're going to be breaking down the Showdown slate for DraftKings for this spooky Halloween night. So let's dive right in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is this game here. We have a over-under of 42.5 with the 49ers 9.5 point favorites at home. So the first quarterback I want to talk about here is Jimmy Garoppolo. So looking at Jimmy Garoppolo, this is a game where you'd assume that he would be able to put up some numbers. Garoppolo this season is managing just 12.7 fantasy points per game, good for quarterback 27 overall. Teddy Bridgewater scored more fantasy points than Jimmy Garoppolo this season. But if there was ever a game where Garoppolo would be able to put up better numbers, it would be in Week 9. The Cardinals have given up the fourth most fantasy points to the quarterbacks this season. 5 quarterbacks that have played the Cardinals this season have scored 30 or more fantasy points. The only concerns for Jimmy G that I have in this game are that his passing volume is going to be on the lower side. The 49ers are just averaging 26.8 passing attempts per game with a heavy emphasis on the run. So for me personally, I actually think that Kyler Murray is probably the better option at the quarterback position for this week specifically. The reason I think that Kyler Murray is the better play here is because he is going to be trailing in this game most likely. He's going to be trailing in the game. They're without their 2 top running backs, and I just think that it's going to be a lot of passing volume. I mean, hell, they just traded for Kenyon Drake, who is a pass-catching running back. This is not going to be a team that's going to be running the ball 20 times with Zach Zenner. It's going to be really focused in on Kyler Murray throwing the ball down the field. It's actually crazy to look at the 49ers, how they've done against quarterbacks the past 4 weeks, average of 0.63 fantasy points. Since their bye week, no quarterback has scored more than 4 fantasy points. 4. That's crazy. But the thing is, Murray has that rushing upside. And you have to remember, too, the 49ers did give a 300-yard passing game to the now benched Andy Dalton in Week 2. So this team can definitely be exposed by a passing offense. So Murray is much better at home. He's averaging 22.1 fantasy points per game at home versus just 14 on the road. So I think that Kyler Murray is definitely the play here in DFS for the Showdown slate. I wouldn't put him in the captain spot like I usually do. Captain spot I usually hold for an offensive skill player as a receiver or a receiving running back. So Kyler Murray, we're going to slide him into the flex here as one of our persons to kind of target there for the quarterback position. Now moving on to the running back position, I really think that the running back position is pretty easy to really figure out. It's Tevin Coleman. I think you definitely need to have Tevin Coleman in your lineups for sure. He just has such a high touchdown equity. We saw him blow up last week against the Carolina Panthers. I think it's just an easy spot for him to really blow up. Latavius Murray ripped up the Arizona Cardinals last week, so I just think Tevin Coleman's just in a smash spot. The Cardinals are allowing 4.7 yards per rushing attempt this season, at home specifically. They're allowing an average of 126.8 rushing yards per game, 4.4 yards per carry against the 49ers. So I think that, the running backs of the 49ers are in play. Right now, it looks like the other running backs are going to play. So the Matt Breidas of the world, the Raheem Mosterts of the world. Jeff Wilson actually is going to be the one that's going to probably miss this game. So just keep updates. But the second running back on the 49ers is definitely also in play. I think that if you just want to dominate the target share or the market share of those players, I think that you can actually play Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida for sure. And Matt Breida, the thing with him is kind of like the opposite of a Stephon Diggs, is with Matt Breida, you always have a guy that basically is on the injury report and then he blows up. So you always want to play a guy that kind of falls under that category. As for the Cardinals, I'm not huge into Kenyon Drake. Like I said before, they're not going to be running the ball a lot. I think that Kenyon Drake is mostly going to fit in as the pass catcher. Cardinals rank 21st in rushing attempts per game, so not someone I'm really crazy about starting. So moving on to the tight end position, I just wanted to really skip and highlight George Kittle because I think George Kittle is someone that you're going to want in your captain spot. I think it's pretty chalky, but at the same time, I think that the spot here is too good for him to really just smash. If you look at the Cardinals, obviously everybody knows the Cardinals are the single worst team in the NFL against the tight end position. They've allowed the most fantasy points to the tight end position this season, and specifically George Kittle. The last time that George Kittle faced a Vance Joseph-led defense was in 2018 when the 49ers played the Denver Broncos. He had 210 receiving yards and almost broke the receiving yards record. He would have broken it if Kyle Shanahan had just thrown the ball a couple more times. So he owes it to to George Kittle to get him that record. So hopefully we see it here on Halloween night. So I think George Kittle is a lock-in for your DFS lineups as the captain spot in most of your builds. I definitely do not want to go and fade George Kittle. I think it's too ballsy. I don't think that it's going to pay off in this specific slate. So that leaves us with a couple more spots here. We've talked about running back. So now going to the receiver position. I really like for the Cardinals, I really like Larry Fitzgerald. Similar to Kyler Murray, and this may actually have to do with why Kyler Murray's splits are better at home, is that Larry Fitzgerald plays much better at home as well. He has been terrible lately, has not done a lot, but I think that back in the desert, I think that he's going to be a much better play. Same thing with Christian Kirk. Kirk has seen at least 8 targets in 4 of his 5 games this season when he started and been healthy. So I think that also Kirk could see some work in the backfield with Cardinals dealing with so many injuries at the running back position. So I think that both Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald are in play. For our lineup build here, we are just going to go with Larry Fitzgerald to kind of see how things shake out. So I'm going to put in Larry Fitzgerald in here as another flex spot. And then that actually leaves us with one more flex here is the kicker position. So it's weird how, this particular build builds out so they actually spend all the salary, which isn't, usually recommended, but I kind of like the lineup the way it's built out here. So if you look at the kicker position, this is just huge. I think that defense, special teams, and kickers all are in play this week, which is kind of weird. The 49ers defense is a great play. They're gonna force the Cardinals to pass a lot. So that's going to continue to create opportunities for turnovers. One thing to note about the Cardinals, though, is they actually rank number 1 in least amount of giveaways per game, 0.5, but they rank second to last in sacks allowed. So the 49ers are going to generate sacks, with the Cardinals allowing 4.2 sacks per game at home this season. The 49ers are also forcing 2.3 takeaways per game and 3.9 sacks per game. So I think that DFS, I think 49ers are perfect. Arizona defense is actually also pretty intriguing as a lower ownership defense. No one's going to play them because everyone's going to basically think they're going to get smashed. But the Cardinals have a pretty good pass rush, and they're averaging 2.8 sacks per game. The 49ers are still missing their 2 top starting tackles in Joe Staley and Mike McGlinchey. So I think that Chandler Jones, who put some pressure on Drew Brees last week, can actually be an impactful play in this matchup. So I think in GPPs, I think the Cardinals defense is a great leverage play. On the side for kickers, Zane Gonzalez and Robbie Gould are both really good options. I slotted in Robbie Gould here in this build here just because he fit the salary. Zane Gonzalez ranks first in the NFL in field goal attempts per game with 3, and the 49ers have the second best red zone defense, 23%. So basically, the Cardinals are going to get stopped in the red zone, and it's going to be Zane Gonzalez kicking a lot of field goals. Robbie Gould is also in play from the DFS side. 49ers rank second in the NFL in field goal attempts per game, 2.9, and first in attempts on the road, 3.5. So I think Robbie Gould could see a lot of volume. I think that he's a really big play here as well. So obviously this is a 49ers heavy build, kind of like focusing on, I think that this is a build that you would do, hey, I think the 49ers are going to win this game, which is why it's kind of built out like this. But I do think that Kyler Murray and Larry Fitzgerald are going to try to bring them back into the game. I think Kyler Murray over Jimmy Garoppolo is just a big play in this game. I think a lot of people are going to be trying to fading Murray because of the matchup, but I think that just from a fantasy perspective, he is a better fantasy football quarterback player than Jimmy Garoppolo is at this time because of his rushing upside. And the last thing, a sleeper that I really like here is Deebo Samuel as the wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. If you look at the 49ers, they are scripting plays for him to get him the ball. And the thing with the Cardinals defense is they suck at tackling. Of players with at least 23 targets, Samuel has the 4th highest average yards after catch per reception, 8.1. The Cardinals can't tackle. They allowed 81 yards after the catch to Latavius Murray last week. They allowed 65 yards after the catch to Michael Thomas last week. So, again, Samuel is someone that's a yards after the catch machine. That's what the Kyle Shanahan West Coast offense is all built around. So I really like Kyle Shanahan's version of his yak monster in Deebo Samuel in this slate here as a low-end wide receiver. His cost is pretty cheap. He's coming in at $5,200, so you can fit him into a lot of builds if you want to kind of try to fade a little bit more of the 49ers run game and say, okay, I think maybe they're going to score more of the touchdowns through the air with the Jimmy Garoppolo and a Deebo Samuel stack. All right, guys, so thanks for watching. Again, enjoy your happy Halloween. Enjoy that, eat some candy, and take down the slate. See you guys.